Welcome to Monday Jazz and Conversation, presented by a collaboration of 4 nonprofit organizations: Gold Coast Jazz Society, South Florida Jazz, Sunshine Jazz Organization, and the Miami Jazz Cooperative, all of whom are dedicated to bringing jazz to South Florida audiences. Each Monday, Wendy Peterson and Nick Yorta feature the music and talk to the country's most talented and interesting jazz musicians.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Fedchuk to the hang.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
The amazing and beautiful and the world's best person, Brenda Alford.
Hi, Brenda.
Live up to that.
Okay, I got some living to do.
Please welcome to Jazz and Conversation the amazing Joe Donato. Joey D.
Hello.
How are you? I'm so
Good evening,
sad
ladies and
that
gentlemen.
we
This
gave
is
you
Ralph
stress.
Edwards, and tonight it's Joe Donato. This is your life.
And now, the hosts of Monday Jazz and Conversation, Wendy Peterson and Nick Yorta.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, happy Monday.
Yes, here we are. Hey, do you know that we are practically, this is like a year since we've been doing this?
Yes.
I think a year next week.
Wow. That we started the Jazz and Conversation.
The Jazz and Conversation.
Kind of crazy thing that we thought would just be, a couple weeks?
Right? But thanks to you all, here we are still.
Well, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Harmony.
We are celebrating tonight a very interesting guy. And it's somebody that I feel a little sad now that I've been seeing some pictures and hearing some stories and getting to know him a little bit. I feel sad that I didn't know him. I didn't,
Right.
make it a point to learn more about him. But we are celebrating the life of jazz trumpeter and bandleader Pauly Cohen. And for those of you who knew him, you knew that he was a diminutive force of nature who shared the stage both on and off with the likes of Artie Shaw and Benny Goodman and Charlie Parker and Count Basie and Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra and Sarah Vaughan and Dizzy Gillespie and Jackie Gleason and Judy Garland and Ava Gardner and so many other people. Unfortunately, he died at his home in Tamarack on February 8th. Presumably from complications of COVID-19. And he was 98. And he was not only a great trumpet player and a great band leader, he was also quite the colorful character and had a story for everying and
Right.
everyone, and nobody escaped his stories. So tonight we're going to pay tribute to him. And we're just going to give you a taste right now of just a little tiny taste of what you're in for tonight.
I got so many stories. You can't have enough film in your camera for me to tell you all the stories of my life as a trumpet player and big bands. Because I got so many stories.
Oh, yeah.
So
Pauly Cohen.
if you knew him, to know him is to love him for sure. Just that face is enough to make you just want to. And thanks to a 2012 documentary about Pauly, we have just a whole bunch of material to share with you tonight. Primarily Pauly in his own words, and we're really lucky and fortunate to have this evening joining us one of Pauly's closest friends and a member of Pauly's big band and co-producer of the Pauly Cohen documentary, Michael Ragan. Michael, hey, welcome to Jazz and Conversation.
Well,
Welcome.
good night. And it's great to be here. Thank you. It's great to be able to celebrate Pauly's life, and especially and to celebrate his life in his own words, which is the best way to do it. He's truly a raconteur and one of those people that if you're fortunate, you meet once in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Michael yesterday. I had the fortune of knowing him, but very, very peripherally. When I was working with Turk Morrow at Blue Jean Blues, he would pop in quite frequently and would sit in. And, he was already probably close to 90 back then. And, again, this short guy, but he would go up and blow, and still had energy and power in his horn, which that's a tough instrument physically. And so he sounded great, and he was always really colorful. And he invited me to rehearse with his band. Unfortunately, I had a lot of gigs at the time, if you all remember what that's like. And so I was never able to do it. But he was very, very interesting and colorful personality.
He is that.
How did you meet him?
Well, it was interesting because back in, I think it was 2012, I actually was contacted by Brett Premack, who's known as the jazz video guy. You see him on the YouTube and all. He has his own channel. And he had mentioned that to some friends he had met Pauly Cohen, who I'd actually seen Pauly, interestingly enough, back in 1974, actually at Carnegie Hall with Count Basie's band, but I kind of lost touch with him. And he said, listen, we're going to be doing a documentary. I didn't even know that Pauly was down here in South Florida. And he said, would you like to meet Pauly and maybe get involved in the documentary, which we did. And as a result of that, you'll see like tonight, we had a wealth of fairly amazing interviews with Pauly. I mean, Pauly was born in 1922 and lived as full a life as anyone.
Yeah.
And fortunate through him, through Brett and his work, I got the chance to be one of the producers on his documentary, which eventually premiered at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival with Pauly's big band, I think in 2013.
That's cool.
But through that, I got a chance to meet all the other people in the periphery of Pauly's life, because Pauly just attracted more interesting people like himself.
Right.
And as you'll see, I mean, clearly listening to me talk about Pauly is not important. The good thing about tonight is to hear Pauly, fortunately, in his own words, because as you can see, he was a very easy interview.
Right.
And he literally, from the time he left his home in Brooklyn in 1940, when he moved into the Forest Hotel, which he'll tell you about, he effectively became almost like the encyclopedia of big band jazz.
Wow.
He played with everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And met everyone, and has lived perhaps one of the more full lives that I can imagine. So I think it's great that we can show this to the people, because there were a lot of people that I don't know were aware of his background. Then the other issue later on, we can talk about the band that he had up in Margate.
Right.
Also showcased the wealth of incredibly good musicians that you have here in South Florida. There's
Right.
an amazing number of great musicians.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let's get into this documentary, and we're going to break it up into several segments, and we'll come back and talk to Michael about some of what we've seen and get some more insights. Here's the Pauly Cohen story.
I grew up in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, and I learned how to play the trumpet from my father. And when I got to be 8 years old, he said, Bobby, come in. He used to call me Bobby, never Paul. I was always Bobby at home. It's short for Bupkis, whatever.
Although Pauly Cohen would become a respected trumpeter in his early 20s, he had to work hard to overcome the limitations of his childhood.
My parents always were in some kind of argument who's going to be. I had to be a judge, and I wasn't going to be a judge at 15, 13, 12, 11. I didn't like that idea at all. That's the reason why I studied so hard to play the trumpet. I knew that was my way of getting out of that place. That's why I was very inward, all the things. So when I got out to Broadway and stayed at the Forest Hotel, I met all these guys at the bar. I got to socialize with these guys. I learned who they were, how they played, how I wanted them to hear me. And I auditioned for as many bands one time, about 18 or 20 bands. I didn't care who I played with. I just wanted them to know I can play the trumpet. I'll tell you how. I am Paul Cohen going to Manhattan. I left my home in Brooklyn. I'm now residing at the Forest Hotel, West 49th Street, between Broadway and 8th Avenue. I'm now meeting some people from Boston, from Texas, from Oklahoma, California. They're all congregating in New York City, waiting for the bus to take them on a one-nighter. So I'm at the bar. I'm buying drinks from people because I wanted to like me. I put a pack of cigarettes in there. I don't smoke, but I mimic it, smoking. Have a cigarette. Give me a tab. And then all of a sudden, hey, Pauly. I tell him, who's that? You. Somebody yelled, Pauly, because I was very diminutive. I'm short, chubby, fat. I used to pinch my cheek. I have red cheeks like a little kid. And I used to hate that because it hurt. That's how it became important. Before you know it, everybody started calling me Paul. Every band leader I worked with, they didn't know me as Paul Cohen anymore. I'm Pauly Cohen. I played for Artie Shaw, Charlie Barnett, Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman. But playing for Basie was a culmination of my life as a lead trumpet player, because he demanded certain things that I could give him.
We'd like to introduce Paul Cohen.
your inspiration when you were coming up? I mean, who did you dig?
Billy Butterfield was one of them.
Yeah, man.
Harry James. I love Harry. And then later on, and when I used to play with black bands, Dizzy Gillespie.
Sure, man.
Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah, yeah.
And that great trumpet player that died in an automobile accident.
Oh, Clifford Brown.
Clifford
Yeah,
Brown.
yeah, man.
I said, Jesus, what music's coming out of that trumpet. It's just wonderful. It's a shame.
Now, did you ever get to play or meet Conrad Gazzo?
I'll tell you about Conrad Gazzo.
Yeah.
I had just finished working for Teddy Powell And the manager had left Teddy Powell, it was Claude Thornhill, where Conrad Gazza was playing lead trumpet, and they were doing a 4 to 5 p.m. radio broadcast from the Glen Island Casino.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, 8 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from the manager. Paul, we need you because so-and-so had an accident. We need you to play for us. We have a program at 4 o'clock. I said, what? What'd you say? I'm still asleep. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, Paul, I'm going to send a car for you. Well, when you said a car, that influenced me a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So I said, all right, what time is it going to come? Well, let's say noon. Is that okay? I said, okay. So the car came at noon. I went to look at the music, and before you know it was 4 o'clock, and Conrad Gazza was sitting in the lead chair. Wow. I'm going to play third trumpet.
Wow.
He gave me a lesson by just playing that music. Because I thought I had a good sound, but Conrad had something else. And Conrad had that embouchure that went this way, like a clarinet player. He didn't have this.
Oh.
He had this down here.
Now,
but the horns came out, but the sound came out here. You know, and he was,
that's wild, man.
What a powerful trumpet player.
Now, he could have actually maybe played Dizzy's horn down and had the bell come up.
Right. He would have loved that.
Who's the guy that stepped on Dizzy's horn? That's what I want to thank you. Now, you're a master of tempo. Basie taught us that. You know what tempo you need to play a chart at, that you can get the maximum effect out of the band, right?
Right.
You know, and you know what I do? I tell everybody the story about when Neil brought, Little Darlin' into the rehearsal.
Oh, yeah?
And Basie said, okay, Neil, count it off. And Neil said, okay, guys, ready? 1, 2, 1.
I don't remember that. I wasn't there that time.
He counted off Little Darlin' at that time. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Basie cut it off with him.
Right away.
And said, 1,
2, 3. I used to hate that. I always try to tell people. See, Basie was a hipster, but he also appreciated pleasing the public.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why he liked me, because I was very commercial. I played a straight melody.
Yeah,
I played a little high, but I played a straight melody. And that's what he liked.
Oh my goodness!
What a character! What a personality!
Oh,
huh?
and it to see Duffy now there in that clip just gives me a little bit of a twinge. But it's so good seeing them talk about this music.
And you realize now, Pauly, during those interviews, Pauly was already 90 years old, or maybe 89 at that time, and you can see exactly how mentally aware he is and telling the stories. And his stories so you get better and better.
He was young at heart, for sure.
He absolutely was. And the sound he had on his horn, it's great. He
was fantastic.
Fantastic, the amazing thing, and just part of the thing. I don't know whether you had this on the tape, but one of the fortunate things that he had was growing up in Brooklyn. I mean, he was clearly a prodigy, but he was very fortunate that he apparently, while he was in his early teenage years, had at least won a competition where he was allowed then to be one of 4 or 5 people in students in New York who had a scholarship to study with William Vacchiano, who was at Juilliard, who was the principal trumpeter at the New York Philharmonic, which explains why he had so much power, why he had such a good ability to read, and was a good, legit player.
Yeah. Yeah, so fascinating. We were listening to What's New, and just saying how beautiful, just how melodic and lyrical it was. It was so lovely.
And imagine as a trumpet player playing that tune after you've just done maybe a set where you've been playing lead, and now you've got to go back and play lead.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if when he was coming into Blue Jean Blues at his age and he still had the power he had, that was probably a walk in the park for him.
Exactly. Now he was just an amazing phenomenon. It was just and then as a phenomenal human being too, just as you'll see from the stories.
Yeah.
Wow, he's really something else. And when did he move here? Do you remember?
Well, it's an interesting issue. He actually began to be in South Beach, or actually be in Miami Beach part of the time, and then still practice or be up in New York for a while. For a while, he actually came down in the 60s, and he would play either the Fontainebleau and places like that, like when Sinatra would come in.
Right.
I think for a while, he actually even played periodically with the Sammy Spear Orchestra, which was the James Gleason Orchestra at the convention or whatever. And then eventually he and his wife's name was Paula, of all things, they moved down here. And again, that probably was because she passed away maybe 15 years ago. And I think he would have been in his 70s at that time, which is probably when he started the band up in Margate. And then he moved down here full time. One of the things that Pauly will tell you in his interviews is that he enjoyed playing the ponies. He enjoyed the fact that there were race horses down here.
Right.
I think for a while at one of the race tracks, I think he actually may have been the guy who used to call them into the thing. He used to wear the little hat and play the trumpet. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
so, and he loved all of that, and just became, an indomitable person here in South Florida.
Very cool. Very fun.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to come back and talk some more. Let's go to the next segment, and I think we're going to hear some more of his beautiful trumpet playing in this segment.
Phenomenal trumpet playing.
Stick around, everyone.
So when I wanted to leave one time to go with my wife, we had 2 days off on Thanksgiving. We were in Detroit. We were going to go to Detroit. We were someplace else. I wanted to take off that day instead of going with the band and laying off someplace. I was going to go to New York and fly back to Detroit. And I said, I got a trumpet player, black trumpet player, take my place so you'll have somebody there. So he says, no way. Bass, he would deprive me of a vacation with my wife, and I got your trumpet player, and he said, well, I want to get the trumpet player. And I don't want you to go, because it's an important day. We're playing a musician's lodge, you know. It was important for me to be there. You can't walk. I said to bass, how long have you had a band? 40, 50 years? How many guys have replaced in this band? And I can't leave for 2 days. A day off, 1 day off. I don't think that's right, bass. I'm going to do your date. But I want you to know I'm not going to be here too long.
Now we introduce Paul Cohen on trumpet. Paul has a request for Poor Butterfly.
Pauly worked with Basie off and on throughout the 70s until a disagreement forced Pauly to leave the band.
2-week notice. I'm going to leave with vacation time. I'm not coming back. And I didn't talk to him or look at him for 2 weeks. I let him know. And he suffered a great deal because he missed me. Because he knew I loved him, and he knew that he loved me. And the very fact that he was stupid about that one day, that's the reason. So that when I was in Miami, I got a call from the manager to join the band in March. I said, no way. Basie wants you. Basie didn't like the very fact, if you come back, he wants you to look at him. I said, I don't work for Basie anymore. He said, get yourself another trumpet player. I took exception to the fact that he was a man, my father image. If I ever had wanted my own father, it would be Count Basie. That's how much I love this man. I went very much in love with him. When he rejected me for that one day, it hurt me. It hurt me very much. Like nobody hurt me in years. And he didn't know it. Because he knew I'd break my balls to make sure I would make something the very next day for him. Which I did for Miami, I'd do anything for him. And he turned me down. So I acceded to his request. Hurt that I was, but I know that was the end for me and him. I couldn't take it. I just couldn't take it. So that when I saw him in Atlantic City and I was working with Resorts International, I was very glad to see him. I forgot about it. It's all over. And I said, I heard the band, and boy, that band sound, you got a good band here. And you know what he said? But there's no Butterfly here. Because he loved me the way I played Poor Butterfly. When I was with Tommy Dorsey, we did 61 nights in a row in Texas and stayed in Texas, working different spots in Texas. Texas is huge. It's 3 countries in one. If nobody understands what Texas is, I could tell you something. And don't forget, we were 2 in a seat doing one night. It's like 2 seats, separate guys, and most of the time we got along with each other, you know. There was no problem, most of us, because we knew we were the band, and we enjoyed being with the band. Everybody liked the money we were getting, and we tolerated our leader, who sometimes read us out because he didn't feel well that night. Of course, we played the same every night. Everybody who was a professional musician only wants to do a good job. Then nobody's goofing off because they're going to goof off. And you can't goof off when you work with Thomas Dorsey, because he was a hard-stacked taskmaster. And as I said before, when we would do 2.5 hours straight dance and take off a half hour, when it come to last hour, we had to play a 4-hour job, he would play his toughest arrangements, either because he was bored or to make sure that everybody was on their toes, don't goof up because we're coming to 1 o'clock, whatever, or he wanted to play the hardest arrangements at the end of the night. I never analyzed that. I just said, I'm going to make sure I'm in good shape to play that last hour, because he's a tough man to work for. And I knew that when I joined the band, I had heard his reputation was presented itself. My reputation wasn't too good either when it came to that, because I was tough. on leaders that they better do the right thing for me or I'm gone, you know. I was so independent, but I worked for Tommy 3 different times. I left the band, and I was invited back when I had nothing to do. I came back in the band. One time Clark told me, Basie's looking for a trumpeter. Why don't you call him? You doing anything? No. I said, call him. He'll want you for sure. I called him and said, come on the band right away. I'll send you a ticket. I left him twice and played with him 3 times. The last time, when I played with him, we were coming in from the road to New York to work the Statler, New York, for 8 weeks. And we had to do some extras, records and so and so. And Tino Bozzi, the manager, made a speech one night, told us like, oh, by the way, guys, the extra things will not be on your salary slip, because we had to do that with I said to Tino, 2-week notice. I want to get paid for working those record dates. So he went to Tommy. Tommy said to me, Paul, you're in your hometown. You're going to go home every night and sleep with your wife in your bed. Why would you want to give notice? I said, Tom, I want my money. If I'm going to play a record date, I deserve to get paid for it. And that's what I want. Thank you so much. I enjoyed working for you. 3 days before we came into Statler, Tino Bozzi, the manager, came up and said, Paul, you got your money. So and that was one time I won, which was the only time I won from Tommy where I enjoyed the shit out of it. I used to go uptown to hear Dizzy Gillespie, you know, and I went to Minton's. And almost every night when Dizzy played there, and all the great Joe Guy was a trumpet player, a very good trumpet player at the time. Monk was playing up there. In fact, one incident with Monk, I was sitting with Monk, and Dizzy was ready to play a set, and Monk was sleeping on the table. And Dizzy said, Paul, wake him up, we're going to play a set now. So I would wake Monk up. Hey, Monk, Dizzy needs you, we're going to play a set here. I was playing for Mr. Wonderful with Sammy Davis Jr. on Broadway. Dizzy called me and said, Paul, come and fill in for Quincy Jones. Quincy has to leave. So he came in and they played the book just like he wrote it. So he was impressed because I've worked with him with Earl Hines' band. And I read the book right off, you know, and it got to be a reputation in New York. Something happens with a trumpet player, call Paul Cohen, he can read around the corner. Because Dizzy coined that phrase about Pauly Cohen. All musicians who could play, I wanted to be associated with. If they were black, well, most of them were black. I didn't think any prejudice because I was like a completely neuter gender. If they treat me good, I treat them good. You're going to be a bastard? I'll just try to ignore it. It was only through Benny Harris that I learned about black people when he took me uptown. Because he wanted to see Ella Fitzgerald, and he left me at the bar, at the Braddock Bar. Oh, nothing but black people there. And he said, give him a drink and I'll be right back. And nobody bugged me. Then Bunny Harris took me there. I sat there. So, and at the Teresa Bar, Teresa Hotel Bar, same thing, he was going to see Ella. And he took me uptown. He used to come down and say, Paul, he used to come to the forest. Come on, come with me. We're going uptown. I said, okay. I mean, I allowed myself to be led because I knew it was a good thing. I had such confidence in these people, more so than white people, because no white people did that for me. I had to learn how to deal with white people on my own. I had to learn how to deal with white people. I wasn't too good at it either. I was more comfortable with black people. They had that presence. When I saw her in San Francisco, she was already doing the drugs a little bit. And I went to see her, and there were a couple of sailors talking to them. And they came on, and she left out her mouth to these two guys. They still haven't gotten over it. I mean, she put these two guys around in a way, like if they ever did anything, she probably would fight them. And they got the message. And they said, all right, Paul, come on, let's go to my apartment. And Lady Day had a, one of those, not a Mastiff. What's the next smaller dog than that that's tough?
Pit bull? Pit bull?
Not a pit bull.
Rottweiler?
No. Big dog, but not...
Doberman?
Doberman? I think a Doberman Pinscher. Doberman. Very friendly. I just had a new suit. So when she went to get on with Joe over there, I was like over here, in my new suit, calm, and then this dog came over to play with me. And this dog had a saliva. So I would kick him in the head, go away. I didn't try to destroy him, but just enough to say, this is me, but I don't want you, get out of here. And the dog said, oh, it was a play. To him, he didn't feel it. No matter what I did, he didn't feel me saying, you know. So the more he came away, I hit him left-handed, righty. I did everything, hit him in the head. Yeah, slap me all over my nose, so I want to. Oh, Lady Day, you're coming out soon, you know. I'll be right there, Paul. Don't worry. He's okay. He's very friendly. Yeah, I know that. He's too friendly. I'm a band leader now. All my life, I always played for some other band. Always thought I could do better than the leader, but this time I'm the leader. And I want these guys to do what I say the music should sound like. They're all great players. Play with all different kind of bands. I think the youngest guy in my band is 50. These guys are 60, 70, and some are 80 like me in the 80s. But they don't play like you would expect an older person to play like. They play like they were still in the big band era.
So, I mean, what a character.
It's a great story.
And you know, I'm listening to these stories about him playing with different bands, and I was just thinking, what a great time.
He was living and playing during the heyday.
I mean, just
of jazz. Everybody. I mean,
you had your pick of bands, you know,
and it was that transition from the big band to the bebop. He was
every
in the
night
middle of
you were
that.
playing. You were just doing you know like runs of 3 weeks at the same place, and
again, it brings us back to that. To his being in such great shape. I mean, it was a different lifestyle.
Well, it's amazing because, I don't think that he talks about this in the documentary, but he also took a year off and played purely and simply with Puerto Rican bands and lived in Puerto Rico for a year. It just loved doing that, lived in San Juan, thought that was great. I know he toured with the, in the 60s with a brass band that did legit work in Africa with the, whatever, at the time when they were attempting to take and share, cultures and all that.
Right.
So he was able to play so many different things. And you're right, he lived at a very, very interesting time. Now, I see the segue here is to talk about when he finally moved down here,
right,
which was probably was 30 years ago, maybe more. And what, long before I got to know him, he started his own rehearsal band up at the Northwest Focal Point Senior Center up in Margate. Mm-hmm. Which was a very interesting scene. I'm sad that I think you saw a little picture there at the end. You saw that, and what happened was that was a rehearsal band that performed every Thursday afternoon from 1:30 to 3:30. But it really had some of the finest musicians you could possibly imagine. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize what a vast wealth of musicians we have here in South Florida, and specifically the number of musicians from 802, the Manhattan Musicians Union, that retire down here. And
right.
So you had all these tremendously great players. I mean, I could list the names for you, but it's just, it goes on forever and ever and ever. So at any time, in his band, there would not only be he as the leader, but there would be 2 or 3 members who had been in the Woody Herman band, and somebody else who had been in the Dorsey band, and somebody who had been in Buddy Rich's band, and somebody else who played with Jaco Pastorius or
right.
played with obviously Kenton or Maynard Ferguson.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting issue because it became a very much of a social issue where literally he would pack the recreation area of this senior center every week from 1:30 through 3:30. And in fact, it got to be so large that there were times where they actually had to call the fire department because they exceeded the level. And they had all these restrictions, which, you couldn't allow them to dance because they didn't have whatever, license to dance. And it was very interesting because people from all over, they would sometimes have buses come from other retirement homes or whatever, but they would look at this as a social event and would dress up to the nines, and it was incredible fun. I mean, it really was. And I know that they did the band for a while, even after Pauly, because eventually Pauly, he did get to the point where he wasn't walking as well, and all his mind was still just absolutely great up to the very end. But Pauly was fortunate that he had an incredible library of music because he had played with everybody.
Right.
So he had this amazing thing, and you had a crowd of people who understood that genre of music. Plus, you have these great musicians down here, many of whom that you've all performed with, which is great.
Yep, for sure.
And so one of the things I see which is good, and hopefully you play it, is that we were very fortunate that, like for instance, when you saw Pauly playing I Can't Get Started in the last bit, at that point, Pauly was almost 60 years old because that was him coming back to play with Basie. And that's a very tough thing for anyone to play, much less a trumpet player at 60.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is we were fortunate enough that when we did the initial premiere at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival, I took it upon myself to see if I could get a birthday wish from Quincy Jones. And as you might imagine, trying to get through to Quincy Jones is a lot more difficult than you think, though. There's a whole series of gateways you have to go through in terms of general counsel and this counsel and that counsel, and nobody wants to know. And then eventually one day, I think you've got that, they sent me the Dropbox where he had remembered Pauly, and they were great friends. And I think that he revered them. And another birthday thing that we received also, which unfortunately I don't have a copy anymore, is from Scotty Barnhart, who's now the director presently of the Count Basie Orchestra, and one of the last members who was actually hired by Count Basie when he was still alive. He's a phenomenal trumpet player himself, and they all loved Pauly. I mean, it was just it was an amazing thing. Everybody had this great reverence for him. Pauly, as you can see, was a very unique personality.
Oh yeah.
You always knew where you stood with him. Okay, and that was kind of a good thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
I prefer the straight shooter.
Exactly. There was no. He was. He didn't have time for sparing feelings, so that was good. It made. It was a very efficient way to live life.
Right. So we have here's a couple comments that came in while the video was playing. I don't know the answer to this.
Did the guys who played regularly with Basie make any decent money?
Wow, I guess you were back when Basie was actually leading the band. You mean?
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they, who knows what decent money was. I mean, it was enough that he could keep people like Lockjaw Davis and people like that.
Sure.
If you saw, in one of those things, I think the last one, I Can't Get Started, if you remember, there's another Miami person, which was Pete Minger, was up there playing up there.
Yeah.
So it had to keep them up there. I think a lot of it was the fact that if you were working with that revered of a band, gosh, it was more of almost like a religious experience. Doing
right.
Of course.
But again, there became a point where big bands just were not financially feasible. How do you keep them together? It's impossible to even do it locally here now.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that it was a combination of that. And then, of course, we see, sadly, how many of the big band leaders who had financial problems at the end. We all see what happened with poor Woody Herman at the end.
Yeah.
And all, the IRS went after him. So I think it was a very difficult situation. It's a shame. But that was the realities of the finances and being a musician. So.
It's such a cool thing, though, to just that at that time so many musicians could be hired all the time. It's just and just that energy. I know that we don't get to see it very much now, but when you're sitting in front of a big band, it's just an incredible experience. The energy, the sound that comes off of the stage, and I love the fact that how it has kind of changed. It's almost become more orchestral, big bands of like more modern big bands like Maria Schneider and things are they keep changing and so it's still so viable and vibrant. It really is just an issue of money.
Well, and actually in South Florida, we're really very fortunate that we have some excellent big bands here, and the fact that we have the Dillard Band up there with Christopher Dorsey, and we of course have Jim Gazier and New World, and then the Cap Group out at the Coral Gables, which have been in the top big bands in their age group
Yes.
15, 20 years, which is amazing. And I wish more people would go see them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Maybe when things open up, people will be so excited that even big bands will be working.
And I keep seeing these things. I keep looking forward to. They keep saying we're going to predict the Roaring '20s again. Absolutely.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Bathtub gin, all of that stuff. I can do all that.
I love it.
There you go.
Harvey and Teresa saying such great stories.
They are.
Yeah, the names he's dropping really.
Yeah.
It's everybody that was anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. No, it's exactly. And everyone, what's interesting is everyone knew who. Knew who he was. Certainly, all the trumpet players did. I talked with Bobby Shue, who just turned 80 2 weeks ago, and he had played with Pauly, and that's why it's great to hear Pauly talk about stories about people like Conrad Gazzo.
Yeah.
Now, most people who aren't musicians probably weren't aware of Conrad Gazzo, who passed away sadly in about 1962. But he was literally the person back when Sinatra was doing his major albums, Come Fly With Me and all that, in the late 50s. Sinatra would actually schedule his recording things around when Gazzo was free. Wow. And he would say, the rest of the band, but we need Gazzo as the lead player. And his story about how he gave him a lesson is true. And most people don't know who that is, but hopefully young people will get a chance to see this and will learn some of the history.
Well, that's the thing. These guys are top notch, and it's funny. You never know what will lead an individual musician to sort of become a star or a household name, but it's never, the ones that don't make it, it's rarely for lack of ability or personality or talent. It's just whatever, just being in the right place at the right time.
That's exactly right.
Because he wasn't playing with those bands, and as you hear the music that is coming out of his horn, it's because he was good.
Yeah.
And also, clearly he was a very conscientious guy and reliable and all the really important things for a band leader,
Yes.
He could play, a lot of different styles and do things. One of the things I think he mentioned there was that he was playing in the pit band for a year with Mr. Wonderful, which was Sammy Davis Jr. back.
Exactly.
And one of the stories he would tell then was that, of course, as you would realize, Sammy Davis Jr. would never finish his show. Because as long as you were going to applaud, he would be there. And Pauly loved it because they would have to pay them overtime every night. Because once they went past, I think it was 11 o'clock, it was like time and a half or double time or something. He loved it,
Yeah, the union rules on
union,
those
especially
kind of things.
802.
Yeah.
So
for
it's
sure.
Great.
That's fantastic. Well, that brings us to our third and final segment of this Pauly Cohen tribute. And we'll come back with Michael and talk at the end of this segment.
That's great. Thank you.
After Count Basie, what's there after that? Where do I go from there? I gotta start my own band.
Pauly's reputation was great. We all knew that he had played with some of the best bands in the world, including Count Basie. We all knew him as one of the top lead trumpet players from the old school. And we all wanted to work with him, but he didn't get out and work too much. So the only way to play with Pauly was to actually play in his band.
I got to play in Pauly's band when I was just getting out of high school. And I first met Pauly then, and just hearing those guys at that age was a really big deal.
Money is not involved with my band. People are coming here of their own volition because they're going to play some good music. And I always have some good music for them to play. Everybody's going to play in this band. There are no slouches.
One of the ones you told me, it's okay, I don't care, but...
I care. I wanted to.
You did tell me this day.
It was always tough being Pauly Cohen, having a reputation, good and bad, wherever I've been. And I lived through it. I made some mistakes as a band when I first started. I was too arrogant about some of the people and I was very critical because I had been with the best of the best. But sometimes you can't get the best of the best when you're a band leader. So you have to have patience. And believe me, I've learned patience. You read my mind.
But you should have a more accurate log where you write down, okay, date, this is who's coming, this is who's not coming.
Would you like to come to my apartment and straighten me out? The personal changes because a guy has an appointment with a doctor. His wife is sick. He has to go there. He's got to check his health out. You've got to replace this man. and you only have 1 day a week to rehearse. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wait a minute. Hey, let's go with this plan. Where's that trumpet player? Oh, you're over here. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you gotta stop there. On the fourth bar, you gotta stop. Please. I need that interest. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we're not together tempo-wise.
The lead alto.
That's what I want to know.
Because that's the problem.
I didn't write the fucking lead part. Whoever played it fucked it up. You before your time wasn't you. And from letter G, we'll go right ahead. There'll be no extended thing because I have to go home and make dinner. You think I'm kidding? I'm cooking for myself these days. I'm a damn good cook. Don't you? Wait! You gotta listen, Richie. You gotta listen. I said 4 bars in front. You gotta learn how to count. Woo! That's exciting. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The guy is a phenomenon. He wears hearing aids in both ears, and he claims to be a little bit hard of hearing, but he hears each musician, and if he has 17 musicians on the stand, he hears each note they play, and he can tell if they're an eighth off, a quarter off, if they're slow, if they're out of tempo, if they hit a clinker, and he's not afraid to stop the band and do it from the top again. Woe unto the musician who does that twice in one rehearsal, because his 4-letter words are all capitals and all 81 dB. He enjoys what he does, but he's deadly serious about it. He wants what he wants, and what he wants is as close to perfection as he can possibly get it in each number, in each solo, and if he figures he has to do it again and go from the top 3 times, and he kills the musicians, it's part of the price he has to pay for a good rehearsal.
I try to do the best thing for myself and everybody else I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with more people. When in 1950, I had the blinkers on. Only myself. What was good for myself or anybody. Now I think as a band leader now, I think what's good for him, what's good for him, what's good for him. I try to make them look good in my band. I never want to embarrass anybody in my band or embarrass anybody else. I know that's an important part of my personality now, and I love myself for it. amazing what age and maturity can do for you. You may lose a lot of things, but you gain an awful lot so that you can keep going and take it easy on yourself. Love yourself. Here I am, 90. I never thought I'd be 90.
My brother Pauly, this is just another old trumpet player. I just turned 80, and I wanted to wish you a happy birthday, man. And I was looking at your credits, and I can't believe, I'm so happy that my name was on that list. Played in Tommy Dorsey, Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, Charlie Barnett, Dizzy Gillespie, my band. It's amazing, because I'm kidding. We both have worked with the same people, and you're a very blessed man to sit around and still be enjoying life. So, as Sinatra used to tell us every night, live every day like it's your last, and one day you'll be right. Happy birthday, my brother. I'm going to be right behind you. Love you.
You able to get that same sound and rip the note instead of going ta-ta, you go exciting, you know. Okay. I thought so.
That was great.
It was great, wasn't it?
Outstanding.
Such amazing musicians and amazing people, human beings.
I regret now not getting to participate and get to know him a little bit.
Well, he was a singular person, obviously, and we also need to obviously thank Brett Premack, because he was fortunate enough, or we were fortunate enough, that he was able to capture all of those interviews on his video, and Brett has just done a wonderful job, and was pretty much the videographer for the documentary, which I think turned out fairly well. It's interesting in looking at all of this. It's hard to really think about how do you encapsulate Pauly's life, but if you think about it, I remember some of the stories that he had told me, because his stories just went on, as you might imagine, forever, because he lived such a full life. I mean, back when he was a younger man and he was playing with Artie Shaw actually allowed him to play tennis with his girlfriend at the time, who was Ava Gardner. Oh. and then later on, after that, when he was on 52nd Street, he got to know Billie Holiday and partied with Billie Holiday. And then later on, I think it was that when Pauly told me, I think they were playing a show maybe at the Fontainebleau in the 60s, and I believe the big band was backing up Judy Garland. And apparently she liked something he had done and actually asked Pauly to come down from the trumpet section to jitterbug with her on stage. So if you think about a life in which you play tennis with Ava Gardner, party with Billie Holiday, and dance on stage with Judy Garland, and then you're allowed the blessing of dying peacefully, happily in your own bed after eating a bowl of ice cream.
It's a good life.
Damn good life, isn't it?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We should all be so lucky, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for giving us the all the footage and participating and being a guest host and sharing all your stories. It made it even that much better.
Well, it's not me. It is people like Brett and obviously Mort Koff and Mike Petrie, who took care of Pauly at the end, who was very much at keeping him going, and then all the great musicians down here who either have come down here or migrated down here or live down here. I was just, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and got a chance to meet a very important person in my life, and it changed my life.
Yeah. Well, we are fortunate. I say every week, every time we profile somebody else, young or old, it is just, we are so fortunate to have this wealth of musicians, in our midst. And it's just amazing, and we're so lucky. And I can't wait to go hear it live in my own ears again,
Soon.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both. You guys have been just absolute wonderful hosts, and you've done a great thing for the last year. Actually, your program on Monday night has kept an awful lot of us sane.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody watching and going through this, because I've actually learned so much. It's been really a year of learning.
It has
really. So
thank
again,
you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Ragan,
and we will look forward to seeing you soon.
Good night.
Great, thank you, man.
Oh, that was fun. That was
so
really
much
really fun.
Yeah, Pauly, that was something else. Well, here we are.
Yes, we have a show next week. Are we talking about this week's show, or we want to do the kind of?
I think let's thank first of all the people who have been the sponsors and organizations.
Our sponsors who week after week help us make this show possible, and we have a lot of really exciting things coming up because a lot of things are happening more virtually, and a couple of things are happening live. So we want to kind of give a little bit of commercials.
Sure, and as you say their names, I'll bring them up.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is the Sunshine Jazz Organization. We've got a little something that they've got going on. So check this out.
Sunshine Jazz Organization is proud to be presenting world-renowned steel pan maestro Othello Molino at weekly Sunday jazz brunch from noon to 3 p.m. at KC Healthy Cooking, located on a spacious outdoor patio at 1900 Biscayne Boulevard, serving an excellent gourmet Caribbean menu and great jazz, led by Lloyd Hawkins and Ted McDermott. As Alice Day would say, hope to see your face in the place.
Hold on.
Okay. If you're out and about on a Sunday afternoon, you could do that. Nikki's having some fun times with the tech aspects right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a really cool thing that you could do on a Sunday. And then we've got something from the Gold Coast Jazz Society, Gold Coast Jazz Society at goldcoastjazz.org.
Actually, I believe there's a couple things. One of them
You want me to talk about this first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really excited because I actually have a gig live and in front of people. And this is going to be with the Ken Poplawski Quartet. And it's really hard for me to see that, so I don't know if I can give you the details. The date is in April. I know that. April 14th at 7:30 p.m. And it's kind of interesting. They're doing, the Gold Coast used to do present their series at the Broward Center. And they're still going to be doing it there, but they're turning the back parking lot into a outside stage. So it's going to be really, really fun. I love Ken Poplawski. He's just such an amazing musician, both on clarinet and saxophone. And he's just a really fun person. And John Hart will be on guitar. Nice. And Chuck Bergeron is on bass. And John Yarling will be on drums. So it's just some of my favorite musicians, and I get to sing live in front of people, which is really exciting. So definitely go to goldcoastjazz.org and check out, because I think the tickets are already on sale, and I'm really looking forward to that. And so if you're in the area, come out and join us, please, please, please.
And they have one other thing that's been happening, which check this out.
Hello, I'm Pam Dearden, the Executive Director of the Gold Coast Jazz Society. On Sunday, March 28th, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., outdoors at ArtServe in Fort Lauderdale, we will be hosting a Sunday Jazz Jam led by Nicole Yarling, featuring local jazz student musicians. Seating is limited, so call 954-524-0805 to RSVP. You can also find information on our website at goldcoastjazz.org. Have a jazzy day.
So that's also another great thing that you can check out the last Sunday of the month. And we've got one more thing, from South Florida Jazz. Not Society, southfloridajazz.org. You can go check out their website for more information about the last concert of their series that's coming up. Here it is.
Hi, this is Ron Weber for South Florida Jazz. We are concluding our 2021 virtual season on Saturday, April 17th at 8 p.m. with the hard-swinging pianist David Kikoski's quartet featuring tenor saxophone titan Eric Alexander, one of the most respected and prolific artists on the jazz scene, with bassist Jill Martin and the incomparable Billy Hart on drums. Details and ticket information are available at southfloridajazz.org. Once again, it's Saturday, April 17th at 8 o'clock. See you, sort of, then.
Yep. So, and then of course we've got the Miami Jazz Cooperative at miamijazz.org, and we've got some cool things coming up because we're going to be celebrating next month. We're going to be celebrating our 11th year doing presentations of jazz. So that's going to be exciting. So let's let you know what's coming up next week because I'm excited. We are actually going on location. It feels it feels all so very
professional, almost
pseudo professional. We're going to go up to Orlando and we're going to be live streaming from there. One of my all-time favorite peoples on the whole planet, Michelle Amato. She's just the most amazing singer and spirit, and she's just so fantastic. Nikki has known her since he was in elementary school.
I think I just became a teenager.
Yeah, so I guess a junior high school.
Yes.
And they, I think Mike and Nikki and Michelle had their first band together, or maybe you were too young to be in the band.
Michael was in the band first, and I joined in towards the end.
So she has a deep history in Florida, in Miami, and in our community. I used to go see her when I was in high school, playing with Larry Lappin at the Starlight Room in the Growler, and I used to beg my mom to take me. So we have lots to talk about, and just she's going to be performing 2 sets live, and we're going to hear all about her history and what she's done with her life, and she's going to be joined by Per Danielson and
a couple of other guests.
We'll make the flyer more updated soon, but that will be next Monday night, so please definitely join us because it should be a lot of fun. Then the first Monday of April, April already, is going to be the French Horn Collective, so it'll be another live show. So you're gonna get your shows on.
I'll have plenty of practice.
That is true. So another live show. So really some really fun stuff coming up. And then to kind of grease the wheels, as it were, for the Ken Poplawski show, we're going to be joined by Ken Poplawski to listen to him play and to hear all about him and his life and his career, and that's going to be a lot of fun also. So we've got lots coming up.
We're doing lots. All of the organizations that are sponsoring this show are doing a lot. So it seems like things are starting to pick up, which is very heartwarming.
Yes, it is. It feels like, maybe things are crawling to normalcy, and that's what we're hoping for. But as long as we do it safely, that's good. So listen, stay safe. Have a fantastic week. We hope to see you next week, where we'll be live from Orlando with Michelle Amato.
All right.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks.